Stepping Stones on Condor Online and Bec Waterfield. What is this show all about, I hear you ask? Well, each week I'm joined by business owners, entrepreneurs, inspirational people and those in the public eye to find out what makes them tick, what drives and inspires them, and the journey they've been on that's led them to where they are now, the stepping stones to their success. It's a real life look at the stories behind the people who make Merseyside such an awesome place to work, live and play. Episode 5, Where Has the Time Gone? And I'm delighted to have with us Vicki from Inside Liverpool.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming along.
You're welcome.
So we'll touch on Inside Liverpool a little bit later. We're going to go back in time,
Okay.
not that long
Not
ago,
literally.
obviously, to when you were at school. And do you remember kind of any careers advice, or when you were little, what you wanted to do? So you've got a daughter who's 6. So
Yes.
is she at the point where she's starting to think about what
Yes.
she wants to do? And is it
Absolutely.
anything similar to you?
She would quite like to be a unicorn.
Cool, you wouldn't we
Good
all?
choice. And really rich. That's her 2 ambitions at the moment.
I think stick with them.
I quite like them too. Being a unicorn sounds really relaxed.
Yeah. So what about yourself then? Was it all unicorns and...
No, absolutely not. I was a big lover of animals.
Mhm.
Used to spend a lot of time in the summer in Yorkshire because my auntie and uncle used to work over there sometimes. So I always wanted to be a vet.
Oh, cool.
So I had this grand idea that actually I wouldn't drive a car and I would ride a horse and I would go to work in my vet's practice in Yorkshire. And then I realised you need to go to university and put your hands up cow's bums and things, and started to think that maybe that wasn't quite for me.
So there was a little bit of a link between unicorns there,
Yeah,
then,
slightly.
I guess. Except she wants to be one, and
Yeah.
you wanted to kind of
And I wanted
fix
to look
them.
after them, fix them, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's the non-glamorous side of vet's life. So where did you go? At what age were you considering that?
So I was probably about 8 or 9, right through till young teenager. And then once I got to about 12 or 13, I thoroughly enjoyed school. Loved learning. Had some really good teachers, some favourite teachers. Used to really enjoy some of their lessons, and I thought maybe teaching was something that I might be interested in. And I was very, very good at English, and I thought maybe that was something I wanted to explore, either through journalism or being an English teacher or something using the written word. So that was where I was quite passionate. And yeah, I tried all of those things in various forms.
Was it seen as a cool thing to want to be a teacher?
No. Thinking about it, I'm not really sure what any of my friends even wanted to do. We went to so in secondary I went to an all-girls private school, and all of the mums and dads had grand ideas for their children. And us as children were kind of just figuring out what we wanted to do and just wanted to be happy and enjoy ourselves and have a laugh. And the mums and dads were always like, we're paying for you to come to this school. And they were all wanting to be doctors and dentists and lawyers and all of those kinds of things. And my mum and dad didn't pay for me to go to that school. I got in on a scholarship. So we were like the poor kids in the class. So there was a very obvious divide between myself and maybe about 4 or 5 other girls who'd got in on scholarships and the girls who'd paid to be there. So there was always that kind of disconnect between what they were going to do and what we were going to do. We were a bit more grounded, I felt, and we were just going to have normal jobs. Whereas being a doctor and a dentist or something sounded quite grand at the time. So I was just quite quiet about what I wanted to do, kept to kind of my little friendship group and just got my head down, got my studies, got some really good GCSEs, and then had a bit of a bad experience in school, to be honest, with some bullying. Like the girl who was actually one of my best friends at the time found it really difficult to kind of separate like love of learning but also have to put up with this situation that I had in school, and that went on until the end of my GCSEs.
And girls can be really cruel as well, can't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she was very, very popular, and so if she said not to talk to me, lots of other people didn't. So school became probably one of those places that I didn't really enjoy spending a lot of time. So I turned up and I did what I needed to do, and then I just went home and I carried on learning and educating, and obviously got good GCSE results because I just got my head down. Didn't socialise as much perhaps in like year 9 and 10 as I would have done previously. And then said to my mum that I wanted to leave and go to college because I kind of wanted a fresh start. And my mum just said no.
Really?
Yeah, she was very much of the mindset that you'd have to just kind of get on with it. These things happen sometimes in life, and it was a really good school and it gave lots of opportunities, and that you just had to get your head down. And we had a massive falling out over that, massive. And I did stay because my mum told me I had to. And my mum's the boss, so So it did, I stayed on and done A-levels there. And actually that was a totally different experience because the girl who I'd fallen out with was obviously doing different A-levels to me, so we weren't in the same classroom and things, so it was a little bit easier. But she stayed on as well for a couple of years, so that was quite difficult.
I guess there is quite a difference from going from doing your GCSEs, because you're kind of lumped in with everybody and everyone has to do them apart from like the options that you take. But yeah, when you move up to your A-levels, what did you do at A-level?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I thought, let's cover all bases, and I did English, maths and biology, English, maths and science, which apparently is not the right thing to do according to all the teachers.
Really?
Because they don't fit together in any kind of logical way. I was very logical, thinking, but I've covered all of the important things.
Yeah.
And obviously in general studies as well. So I thought it was a really sensible move. And I failed maths miserably. I got an N and not classified at any level, because the difference from GCSE when I got an A to A-level maths was it was like a foreign language. Yeah. I literally just spent every single lesson copying off the girl next to me. It's just like, what's going on?
Someone bring back trigonometry.
Yeah, and the teacher, it was like she was talking German. And the teacher kept saying to me, come for extra lessons at lunchtime, we will get you an E, Vicky. She kept saying that was like my goal. And I didn't, I got an N after all of that anyway, because just completely over my head. But the English I really, really enjoyed. And it was the love of writing and the written words and being able to be quite creative and things and paint pictures for people, and everyone loves a good story. So that was a really important thing for me to get a good result, because I thought maybe that is something we want to explore later through journalism or teaching or something like that.
And then what happened after your A-levels? But pretend maths didn't happen. We'll just gloss over that. That's didn't happen. So you've passed 2 A-levels?
I passed 2 A-levels plus general studies, so we'll call it 3.
Yeah, definitely. Great. What was the next step for you?
So I was actually rejected from university because I didn't get the third proper A-level, so I had to go through a process called clearing, where they basically they give you a point score, you've got to achieve that, and I didn't, based on my predicted grades, and then I actually didn't get it anyway because I got an N, and then they do a process of clearing whereby basically if you've got any spare spaces left, they kind of lower the bar a little bit. So I got into John Moores University, and I went to do media studies and communication studies, which I thought at the time was maybe something to look into, because obviously at the time, back in 2000, it would have been like media was really taking off. We'd only got the internet when I was doing my GCSEs, so it was really relatively new, and I thought media studies was a good place, and I met loads of amazing people at university. It was a totally different experience to school, and a lot more emphasis on independent learning, which was difficult.
Balancing that and clubs
and money, and because they throw money at you when you're a student, overdrafts, cards.
I've never been so rich as when I was a student. I was minted. I packed in my work for a year.
Absolutely. And I had a part-time job as well, so yeah, you absolutely feel loaded. And my friend went to Liverpool University, one of my best friends, so we used to meet up at lunchtime because the campuses were close to each other, and then sometimes we didn't always make it to the lectures in the afternoon. So it was an eye-opening experience, and I enjoyed it for 3 years, and I just about scraped a 2-1 degree by the absolute skin of my teeth, because I really wasn't attending half the lectures. And actually it was probably because a lot of the stuff didn't really interest me. So university was something that everybody was just did because that's what you were told to do. In the school that I was in, that was the expectation. I racked up a huge amount of student debt. Like every penny they wanted to give me, I just accepted. And I had a part-time job, so I really didn't need it. And mum and dad, I was living at home, I was in John Moores University, I was living at home, I had nothing to pay out for, and I still racked up close on about £25,000 worth of student debt in 3 years. Which I'm still paying off the student loan element of it now. But credit cards got out of control, store cards got out of control, just because they give you so much access to credit.
It's quite irresponsible, really, when you think about it, because you are then going off into. It's a different kind of world. I'm lucky. I'm old enough that when I went to uni, we didn't have to pay tuition fees.
Yeah, I was the year after you. I think you had it all.
So, but we were eligible for grants, so I got this grant. I got full student loan, and then the same. It was store cards. It was too easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get money, and then you're kind of like, Oh.
I remember going into a shop and I wanted a new laptop and it was like interest-free credit. And I had no income really, I had a part-time job and the guy was just filling the form and he was like, let's just say that you earn this much. It's just that easy to get credit, and obviously at a young age you're quite irresponsible.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? And then you kind of become a grown-up and you want to get credit on certain things and they're like, no, you can't have it.
Yeah,
You're
because
like,
of
come on.
Yeah. And I remember actually later on in life applying for whatever it was, credit cards or something. And I rang up because I'd been rejected and I thought, I've never missed a payment on anything, like everything's up to date now, what's the problem? And I called the girl and she looked at my credit score and she said, you've got 28 credit cards. I was like, no I haven't, I've got like 2. And what she meant was I'd never closed down any of those accounts over time.
Right.
So they were all still sitting on my credit score as like possible, you know, a couple of thousands on each one as like a possible pot of money I could tap into, even though I could go cards up and everything. So that still has a massive impact years later.
I do think that there should be something in schools and particularly secondary school that teaches you stuff like this.
Yeah.
Because it's just, we all sit back and look back. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's mental. So 2-1.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
I was on holiday when the score came in and my mum opened it and I was like, oh Jesus.
Not damn competitive, but you beat me. I got a Desmond 2-2. I was gutted. So yeah, 2-1 that's a good degree.
Yeah.
So and obviously that was in media and communication. So
yeah,
what happened from uni?
So I didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do, because then once you came out of education, it was like you're in the real world. Now you've got to get a job and things. Didn't have a clue. I was working part-time in Tesco the whole time I was in uni, so I just went full-time in Tesco because that's an obvious thing. And then I had various crappy jobs, to be honest, like receptionist. I worked in a modelling agency at one point as the receptionist. Just loads like little temporary jobs. Then I got a job for a company that used to be called CMP. So they were based in Southport and they used to do the summer pops, if anyone remembers that, the Liverpool summer pops. So I was based in the office up in Southport and I used to be in the accounts department with a maths A-level in the accounts department because basically the girl left. I was kind of just positioned in this place. And I stuck it out for probably about 12 months or so, and we did the summer pops as well, so you used to do the hosting on the VIP tent and things like that. Right. And I thought, this is the media, this is fantastic, because the Echo were always there was always people taking photographs and doing videos and stuff. I didn't really have a clue what I was doing or why I was there. And then someone said if you wanted to train to be a teacher, you could go back to university and stay in education a bit longer. Like, don't get a job in the real world. Just go back
stay in
and
a bubble.
some more stuff. So I just thought, why not? Like, why not? So actually I couldn't get into university as soon as I wanted to do the PGCE, which is teacher training course, because what they wanted was English literature A-level, and I only had English language, and then I'd done a media studies degree. So I had no kind of English literature since GCSE, so I had to go and do an Open University course. It was just an exercise, ticking a box exercise. So I had to score so many points on an Open University course, which I did, and again thoroughly enjoyed because I was like the geek in the class, and amongst all these much older ladies who were doing it just kind of to broaden their horizons. I was like, I know the answer.
They were like,
they were just like, because I was quite fresh on education, so I remembered a lot of the stuff. They was covering similar books to what we'd done in school. So I did that, and I also worked in a school for a year as a cover teacher. So if there was ever staff off, you kind of just stepped in and taught the kids. And
was that primary school or secondary?
Secondary school, yeah. So it was SFX school up in Wilton. I was there for a year, and I was just covering for staff that were absent, and basically they left the work, and I just had to manage behaviour and things, which was interesting. Yeah. But it didn't put me off. I thoroughly enjoyed it because teenagers can be really quite interesting little creatures in their own way. And most of the time they just wanted someone to chat to, somebody to listen to them. And I was quite happy to do that and get paid to do it. So I did that for a year, and then I was able to go and do the PGCE at Hope University, so that was another year-long course, so I got to stay in education a bit longer. And that was the point when they started giving bursaries and grants and a golden hello or something I got, so that was all funded, which is fantastic. But that comes to an end. You have to get an actual job in the actual real world.
And how difficult is it because a friend of mine, her daughter got PGCE, and she really struggled to get a teaching job. Yeah.
I think it depends on what your subject is. So English is always, like the school that I went to when I got my first job, I stayed there for 10 years, and there was 11 of us in the English department, and I know in some subjects there's maybe only 1 or 2 people in the departments. So I think it totally depends on what your subject is and how in demand that is, because I'm aware that now they're cutting costs on things like music and the creative arts and things. So it wasn't too difficult, to be honest. I had 2 interviews lined up and I was offered the job at the first one. And I took it, and I told my mentor that I'd accepted this job, and her face was like, "Are you sure you want to work there?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "There's been loads of stress, there's been loads of maternity, there's a churn on the staff, and it's going to be quite a difficult environment for you to go into as your first placement." I was just like excited that I passed an interview for the job. Someone wanted to give me some money to go work as a teacher. And I did, and I loved it. And 3 of us started at the same time in that place, which was really good, because there was a nice network of us that were all about the same age. We'd all come through a similar path, and we all started at the same time, so we were a good support network for each other. And as I say, I stayed just about 9.5 years, close to 10 years.
And when did you leave?
In 2013. So I always wanted to leave. I knew that there was something else that I wanted to do. I didn't feel fulfilled as a teacher. Part of the reason because it wasn't about the kids anymore. So secondary teaching can be, everyone panics and thinks, wow, all these secondary kids, they're so naughty. Kids were the best bit. The politics behind the scenes, all the paperwork, the progress that you're expected to make, the constant feeling that you weren't good enough and that you should be doing more and more and more. And 80-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks were quite normal. And through the holidays. And
people don't see that, because people do just go, "Oh, you're a teacher, you only work from 9 till 3, and
yeah.
you get all these weeks off, and you don't do anything apart from that."
And it's absolutely not, because the pressure, so that's like the day bit of the job, but then you've got so much extra stuff. And I was a key stage coordinator, so I had to manage key stage 3. And then obviously with all the changes that were coming in politically and all that kind of thing, so that was an extra pressure for not really much more money, to be perfectly honest. Excuse me. And then I kept going for job, like promotions, for whatever reason, just got rejected. They always seem to take external candidates for any promotions, which obviously as a department we started to feel a bit devalued, because they always thought the grass was greener outside and somebody was always better. And I remember going for this one job interview, and there was only 2 of us out of our department that went for it, and then an external candidate got it, and that was the day that I just thought, I've had enough of this. So what do we do?
Go back to uni.
Yeah, go back to uni. That was my actual first thought. Like, what else? Because I trained to be uni. And by this time, 2013, so I was 30, well 29 at the time, and I was thinking, God, I've just wasted like so many years of my life at this job. And I knew it wasn't teaching in general. I didn't just want to go to another school. It was the whole system, and it was really unfortunate because the kids were the best bit. So I'd always done freelance work for some of the examination boards. So I'd always marked GCSE exam papers. I'd always done like moderation and things of their speaking and listening and their coursework and things. So I did have that kind of in the background as an extra income, which it's seasonal. So you can't, you can only earn a certain amount of money, and it only comes at certain times. So I couldn't have left my job to just do that. So I thought there's got to be something. Let's have a baby. Let's have a year off and have a baby, because that's a way to get out your job, and they'll pay you maternity leave. And then that gives me 12 months, like buys me some time. And obviously my husband and I wanted children, but it seemed a good point.
Yeah, it wasn't just like, I don't fancy working for a kid.
and absolutely that is not a tip for anybody. If you hate your job, please don't have a child instead. Because actually what happened was I then hated my job, and I had a baby that I found really quite difficult to manage. So we did try for a baby because my husband and I wanted one anyway, but obviously the package in teaching, if you know anything about the package in teaching, they give you a really good maternity package. They do look after you well in that sense, and you can have up to a year off. So I was like, that will buy me some time to get some headspace, figure out really what I want to do. So I finished early Easter. It was, my little girl was born in the May, so I finished in the March. I was 32 weeks pregnant, and someone said something along the lines of, this teacher's off and you need to proofread 32 reports or something by tomorrow because this other teacher's off. And I just thought, no I don't. 32 weeks pregnant, I'm going home. So we just went on maternity leave and had my little girl, which was an eventful birth. in Cardiff, of all places, because I was on a teacher, I was marking GCSE exam papers at the time. So it was up in Cardiff when I went into labour.
Wow.
So that all happened, and it was a difficult birth. I had cesarean section and all things like that. So that was really traumatic at the time. And then my little girl was 10 weeks old, and my dad had a brain hemorrhage.
Oh gosh.
So I wasn't really thinking about what I should do as a job anymore. And my dad ended up in hospital, and he got the Royal were absolutely fantastic hospital. They blue lighted him straight away to Bolton Neuro Centre, and he'd had a bleed on the brain. And he had an emergency operation, and then they basically said that he'll be fine. He's going to come. The operation was successful. We've got to keep an eye on him for about 2 weeks or so, and he should be fine, but he's going to need a lot of rehabilitation. He'd lost the use of his left hand side, so he couldn't move his left leg or his left arm. And my dad and my mum were going to be my childcare when I went back to teaching. So I was always going to go back 4 days, and then they were going to mind the baby for me, kind of in and around. And that just wasn't going to be possible anymore. My mum was an absolute mess. Depression, obviously, because suddenly her whole life had changed. And we spent about 12 months going backwards and forwards to different hospitals and visits and things. And my dad was just an absolute shell of himself. And so Bella was 11 weeks old when that happened. And I didn't know I had postnatal depression at the time. So I was trying to manage a baby that didn't ever sleep. She had reflux, so she wasn't putting on enough weight. Kept getting told off by health visitors because she wasn't putting on enough weight. I couldn't breastfeed because I'd had a cesarean section, so my milk hadn't come in quick enough. And I had all these things, and then my dad went and had the brain hemorrhage, and I was just like, what on earth?
Yeah, what next?
Going on? Yeah, totally. And so I I was off work anyway because I was on maternity leave, but my maternity, so the packages, after 6 months it changes, they drop down, and then after another 3 months it drops down again. And then by the end you're on no maternity money from the school, you're just on statutory maternity. So I was surviving on about £108 a week, because I couldn't physically go back to work. And then I was supposed to be going back, and I had to phone in sick basically and go off on stress because there was no way my dad was in a fit state to kind of come out of hospital and that. So I went back to work on a kind of like phased return, and I asked them if I could go back 3 days because of everything that was going on. My manager said, no, that's not possible. We can't accommodate that, is what she said. So I thought, well, I can't accommodate you anymore. So the letter of resignation got written. I did my 13 weeks because you have to do that to maintain your maternity package. And then I left in the Christmas, and I was like, done.
Cool. I'd love to talk a bit more about that whole time in your life, but I'm conscious of time moving on. It's really interesting. It's really interesting.
Like therapy session.
Isn't it? Just let it all out there. And obviously the business now is Inside Liverpool, but you didn't go straight from teaching to that. You did a few little jobs where you thought that you could take Bella with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've got
put the baby in a backpack and off
my
you go.
mum can't mind it anymore. I need a job of some kind. I need to set myself up in my business. So I went to the women's organisation in Liverpool, and they set me up with like a toy business. So I was going to sell children's toys online, and it was going to be a business online. It was going to be really easy. And then I also had soft play equipment that I used to hire off parties. I was very naively, I thought, I'll just take Bella with me, it'll be fine. Because she was probably nearly 2 by this point. And that didn't work at all. Trying to manage her whilst I was trying to deal with clients just wasn't happening. And you can't compete with online retailers and things, so that didn't work. So I went back to my business mentor in the women's organisation. I was like, can you just help me? Because I haven't got a clue what it is that I want to do. And we'd always been landlords. We'd been accidental landlords when the property crash happened in 2008. And we'd always had a couple of buy-to-lets anyway. That was kind of just in the background. She was like, what are you passionate about? Education. And I know a lot about property. So she was like, let's try and merge those. Wow. So Inside Liverpool was born in 2016.
So tell us, what is Inside Liverpool?
So Inside Liverpool is a property education company, and we deal primarily with investors, usually from outside of the city, and we educate them about good things to buy in Liverpool that will give them good returns on their money, but also will help to increase, like get rid of all of the empty homes in Liverpool, improve areas and communities because the investors will spend money on them, bring them up to standard. And we help connect people in Liverpool who need to get rid of their houses, owner-occupiers selling, or landlords getting into houses. We kind of connect those two parties. Someone needs to sell a house, someone needs to buy a house, and then I educate them kind of along the way.
And Liverpool seems to be booming in terms of new builds.
Yeah.
A lot of it seems to be student accommodation that's kind of popping up left, right and centre. Just
Yeah.
you can't blink and there's like, oh, there's another one then.
And I don't know how many students we've actually got to fill half of it.
Where have they come from? What's happened to where were they living before these were built?
There's a huge amount of competition as well in the students, like pods, I think they call them. There's a lot of funding for being able to build those kinds of things, and obviously the council can tick boxes and say they've created too many homes and they're quite small, whereas if it was a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom flat, they'd have to use a lot more floor space, so there's a little bit of politics in the background as well, some of that. We don't advise anyone to buy new build properties, like buying a new car, just devalue straight away. The first couple of years you just lose quite a bit of money on them, so we're about renovating old houses, like the old Victorian 2-bed terraces are absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
We go in and do a full refurbishment on them, make them really beautiful homes for people.
So how does the business work then? Is it investors who will come to you, they find you and work direct, and you then source property for them, match them up, or is it?
A little bit of two things really. So I educate the investors and they find me through all the social media channels usually, and word of mouth. Obviously over time we've built a good reputation. So they come to me and we do a bit of education with them, and in the meantime we're quite well placed in the city that we're very fortunate that we know a lot of people in the property industry, and then landlords kind of find us. So there's been some tax changes in the UK over how property income is taxed, which made a massive difference to a lot of landlords. So they're starting to want to offload their properties because they're getting hit from us.
It was a huge hike, wasn't it?
Massive, yeah. So they can't offset their interest rates on any finance. So that is not classed as a business expense anymore, even though it is a business expense. So it's affected a lot of the older style landlords massively. So they're looking to offload stuff, and then we kind of talk to them about what their property's worth, give them an indication of, you know, someone that we might have that is looking for that particular type of house, and then we match them up. And the buyer pays us the fee, so any sellers don't pay us any fees. So unlike estate agents, we work kind of with the buyers rather than with the sellers, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's really interesting the way that you've managed to combine, like you say, it seems like not the business itself is a very simple thing, but to sit there and go, what do I love doing? Well, I love education and I know property. Yeah. Ta-da!
Yeah. And it's a business that's kind of created around my family and my lifestyle because it's flexible and things, so I can work very anti-social hours, which works really well for me with a sort of, with a young family. So yeah, it's took a long time to get here though.
It's never easy.
It's never easy. And there's loads of things that I would like to do with the business, but it's just like small steps, and it's constantly taking action and moving forwards and having a really positive mindset a lot of the time.
Is there a worry there that, obviously there's always talk, we've got Brexit, whatever the hell's going to happen with that, nobody seems to know, and then people talking, a recession coming back. Yeah. Property obviously is something that gets hit really, really hard.
Absolutely.
So is there anything you can do to recession-proof, or is it just
for our business? If there's a property crash, it's probably going to be the best thing that could happen for our business, to be honest. Because in a property crash, everybody panics and wants to sell their properties really quickly. They have to sell cheaply because obviously they don't know who's going to buy them. For my investors, that's a really good opportunity to pick up lots of properties very, very cheaply. I don't think Brexit should impact us on us massively, because in Liverpool we've got a huge demand for rental properties. Like, we let houses within a week or two really, really quickly, really easily. There's always people looking for homes because they can't afford to get on the property ladder. So actually anything like that, it's kind of understanding the opportunities, and even when there's a down point. So as long as you plan for it and you know what to expect. So personally, we've got a portfolio now, we're squirreling away money in the background for when that property crash happens, because I don't want to buy houses at this price, I want to buy them at that price. And everyone will want to get rid of them because they panic. And that's what people do with lots of investment things. They just sell and get rid and think, get out quick, it's all awful. So it's about seeing opportunities, I suppose.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? A lot of people, like you say, they'll offload. It's very similar with like marketing budgets crash, and the first thing they do is, we won't do any marketing. Well, actually, that's the time to get out there.
Thing. Yeah, absolutely. When everybody else is panicking, you do the opposite.
Yeah. So what's the plan? Where do you see yourself, say, 5 years, 10 years?
In 5 years, so I'm very heavily involved in the business at the moment, in the day-to-day, so I'm slowly trying to remove myself from that. So I've got some really good staff members at the moment that are really, really coming on in leaps and bounds. So I'm hoping to hand over a little bit more to them, so I can still, because I probably work more hours now than I ever did in any job, but obviously it's for me, which is a much better goal. But I do need to remind myself that my little girl's 6 and I want to spend a lot of quality family time. And my dad died after 12 months, so my mum's 73 now. I want to spend some time with the family.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of, in 5 years, I want to be running the business and not being involved in every single day to day. Just kind of sitting back and thinking, yes, this is all working. If it happens.
That's what business is about, though, isn't it? It's not about slogging your goods. But I think one thing that comes across from, like, so we're in the 5th episode, everyone said, I've never worked so hard. It's never been so tough. I've never had so little sleep. And you're saying you're up till 2 in the morning sending emails about properties, and it's a very demanding, stressful thing. But you've never been so happy doing it because you're doing something you love.
Yeah, it's that fulfilment.
Yeah, and you're doing it for yourself. I mean, you kind of don't mind working those hours too much.
No, absolutely, and it's flexible hours. So you do work a lot of hours, but it's flexible, so I can still take my little girl to school, still pick her up every day.
And go to sports day this
afternoon, absolutely. I would never have got the time off to do that when I was in my day job. Which
is precious, and I think especially given what you've been through as a family, it puts priorities in place, doesn't it, that you want to spend time, you want to see your daughter grow up, and you want to spend time with mum. And
yeah, absolutely, because you just don't know what's around the corner.
So in terms of business people who you look up to, do you have any idols?
So it all started, there's a company, because it's property, there's a company online called Progressive. Now I watch loads of their podcasts and webinars and videos and YouTube channels and things. And actually Progressive have evolved over time, so now they do business, and their other company is called Unlimited Success. So the face of their company is a guy called Rob Moore, and he talks probably as fast as I do. And he's really so passionate about everything that he does, and I just follow him. I've got a little bit of a crush on him, I think, because of how clever he is and how much he's achieved in a really short space of time. And he's had a similar situation with his dad's had mental health issues and things, so he's been driven to kind of make the best of a situation and support the family, which is where a lot of what I've done comes from. So Rob Moore's fantastic. There's lots of really big American influences and things. I follow people like this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. Love him. He's dead down to earth. He says loads of there's no nonsense from him. He's really straight. And then the other thing, I've got an Audible account, and I just inhale audiobooks every time I'm driving around and just listening to so much business stuff, because it's all about the mindset and kind of learning systems and processes and how to build a business, because no one ever actually teaches you that. I've got a friend who's got a business degree and she's still in a full-time job. And I've got a business, I've got no business degree, and actually she just thinks that what I do is so different to anything she was ever taught. So you're a professional learner, aren't you? Yeah, I'm learning on the job.
If you could be a professional student, you would have been.
If someone paid me to go to university, this is what makes me laugh so much, because learning's got to be, as you say, you've got to feel fulfilled. It's got to be something you're passionate about. Anyone that sits you in a classroom and tells you to learn geography or maths, for me, it was just never going to go in. But because you want to learn, especially as an adult, and you kind of find something that really makes you happy and fulfilled.
See, childhood's wasted on the young, isn't it? You could go back now and learn all that stuff again.
If you could go back and tell your younger self something.
Stay at uni.
Don't spend too much on credit cards.
Definitely. So we're coming to the end. How do people find, if they want to learn a little bit more about you and about the business, or even get involved? Maybe there's some investors listening and they'd like to be involved in the whole system.
So we've got, most of the stuff that we do is on social media. So we have got a website, which is www.inside-liverpool.co.uk. And if you go on there, it's got all our social channels anyway. But I'm heavily involved in the Facebook pages. So we're on all social media channels, but I am very present on Facebook. So just come and find our page, Inside Liverpool.
Fab. It's been lovely having you here.
Thank you.
Genuinely, I think we just have another cuppa and we could sit and talk for another half hour or so. Lovely. But thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Beth.
If at any point you would like to come in and share your stepping stones to success, we would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us across all social media channels. Just search for Condor Online. You can use the hashtag stepping stones. Vicki, thank you once again, and we shall see you again very soon.